What began as Negro History Week turned into Black History Month.
We are moving in the right direction, but the caboose is still moving slow, but we'll get there.
And now we are honoring a century of Black History Month.
You don't know where you're going if you don't know where you've been.
Black history is a part of American history.
History can be taught.
We are a part of the fabric of America.
And it can be shared.
Wherever I can go and whatever I can do to tell the story, I'm going to tell it. I lived it.
But most importantly, it must be preserved.
They're realizing that we don't know too much history about the Black people that we serve. It's high time that we learned.
Yet despite 100 years of recognition, a question that needs to be asked is Black history becoming history? Thank you for joining us for Justice for All, the legacy of Black history. I'm Tammy Fields.
Hi everybody, I'm Jeff Butera. Where we are in St. Petersburg is the Carter G. Woodson Museum. Carter Woodson is known as the father of Black History Month. He created it 100 years ago. And today we are taking you through the decades that followed, talking about the challenge of preserving history for another century.
Neither one of us can really say what it was like 100 years ago, but there are people in our communities who were there and are still with us today. Ardalia Dangerfield takes us to Polk County, where a 103-year-old man shares his journey breaking barriers for equality.
Some might say that Jordan Corbett's 103-year life story reads like a history book.
You don't forget it. No, you don't forget it. You really don't.
While others see it playing out like a major motion picture on the silver screen.
Putting my trust in God, no matter what happened.
He's a living testament to Black history.
I think that's what kept me going, because there was some terrible things during that time as a kid to see.
Jordan Corbett, known to many as JJ, grew up in Pierce, a mining town in Polk County. When he was born, Calvin Coolidge was president, and segregation was a way of life.
If you are ordering your food and they're waiting on you, and a white come in, they'll stop waiting on you and wait on the white and come back to you. And it was just one of those things that they expected you to understand.
At 10 years old, he remembers the warnings from his parents when the Ku Klux Klan rode through their community.
Man, our parents, we better get in the house and stay out the way.
And JJ learned fear when he saw death in a tree in nearby Mulberry.
As a kid, we were driving by, and boy, they had hung a black man. Yeah. We saw it. So, yeah.
By 21, JJ was drafted into World War II, and there he began to challenge the norm, making history of his own.
I think most blacks, we wanted, in my mind, to prove that we could be as good a soldiers as anybody else.
He joined the second group of all-black paratroopers. Known as the Triple Nickels, they flew secret missions, becoming trailblazers in the struggle for equality.
During that time, I really was excited. I used to be excited when I got up to go out to jump. It was really exciting to me.
He helped pave the way to integrate the military. Back home, he broke barriers too, coaching and teaching math at Union Academy, the first black school in southwest Polk County. Every Wednesday at Blue Ridge Grill, he meets some of his former students for breakfast, including Otto Brown, class of 1961.
Mr. Corbett, hey, he was so cool and quiet, but he was tough.
Eventually, court-ordered desegregation brought change to Union Academy, putting white and black students together.
And It was difficult at that time with what was happening. You know, we were so accustomed to having our own and doing our own, but we managed to work through it.
3 decades later, JJ was elected the second African American to the Polk County School Board. At home, memories and awards fill his trophy case. And there's a plaque with the advice he gave his students.
Always finish, never slow down, always drive through.
Words JJ has lived by. 103 years of Black history taught him that.
Boy, you did all right.
In Polk County, I'm Dahlia Dangerfield for Spectrum News.
So as we mentioned, 2026 is the 100th year that Black History Month has been observed. Here's how we got here. The month we know now began as a week, and it began with Dr. Carter G. Woodson.
Woodson was the son of parents who were once slaves, and he once worked as a coal miner and later became the second Black person to ever earn a PhD from Harvard University. He also founded the Association for the Study of African American Life and History.
On February 7th, 1926, Woodson launched Negro History Week to teach and explore the contributions of African Americans. He chose the month because of 2 birthdays, Abraham Lincoln and Frederick Douglass. It began to expand to a month in the 1960s, coinciding with the Civil Rights Movement. But it wasn't until 1970 that the first official Black History Month celebration took place at Kent State University. 6 years later, federal recognition.
When, in 1976, President Gerald Ford officially designated February as Black History Month, urging Americans to recognize Black achievement. It came the very same year the United States celebrated the bicentennial. Since then, every president has designated February Black History Month with a proclamation. Here's President Trump's this year. Now, one way we preserve history is through our museums, and Florida does have plans for a state Black History Museum. Now, almost 2 years ago, a state task force voted against making the historic town of Eatonville home to that museum. Instead, state leaders chose St. Augustine.
But other than that decision, the plans of the museum have been slow moving. And while 2 state lawmakers have very different ideas on the next steps, a local artist continues to document Florida's Black history in a museum creatively, stitch by stitch. Each strip of fabric she rips apart tells a story. So Lisa Moore pins it all together.
In my opinion, fabric holds memory and it holds place.
Like the quilt she's creating here that tells the story of her own family's history.
Because I've been able to research my family back to 1743 in St. Augustine, Florida.
Moore is an artist in residence at Art and History Museums of Maitland.
There are so many untold stories that just need to be told, and doing so visually sort of it sparks that interest.
State Representative Bruce Antone understands the importance of creating space to spotlight history.
In this document I have, it talks about the Black towns that might have existed in the state of Florida. There should be a history of that.
It's why he's authored HB 1375 to get the ball rolling.
The holdup is there has been no legislation passed designating a specific location at the Florida Museum of Black History.
He says there was an attempt last year by Republican State Senator Tom Leake to designate St. Augustine as a location of the Florida Museum of Black History.
That bill did not pass. So we have to start over.
Very significant in Florida history.
Whether the museum is built in St. Augustine or somewhere else, artists like Moore will continue to research, document, and create works, scene by scene, in hopes that there will always be a space for people to see Florida's Black history on full display. Senator Tom Leake, his district covers St. Johns County.
Last year we got money, but we didn't get the legislation across the finish line.
That was $1 million. Leake is seeking more money to get it off the ground, including private dollars. He's proposed SB 308 to create Florida's Museum of Black History in St. Augustine.
If you think about the location of this, right now I believe it's 40% of the state's 4th graders go to St. Augustine to learn Florida history, and I firmly believe you can't tell Florida's history without telling Florida's history with African Americans as well.
Co-sponsored by a Democrat, he says it has bipartisan support.
Once you put it in statute, it literally takes an act of the legislature to remove it.
Representative Antone is proposing not one but 3 locations for the statewide museum.
Again, it was my intent to build a world-class museum in Orange County, which was Eatonville. The folks in Opelika want a museum, and then the folks in St. Johns County want a museum. So we can do 3.
But nowhere in their name would you hear that it's a Black History Museum. Antone says that's by design.
In this era of anti-diversity, equity, and inclusion, I'm just trying to stay away with that.
We asked Senator Leek if he thought there could be pushback.
We don't have to talk about the likelihood because I can tell you what's happened. There's not been any pushback. None whatsoever.
Back here at her studio, Moore says it is important now more than ever to document the historical stories, saying quilting tells a deeper, broader story, a small scrap of fabric, providing huge significance.
There have been books that have been written, so I just sort of felt that it was time to visually present that history.
Where we are in St. Pete, the Woodson Museum opened 20 years ago back in 2006. It's closed right now for renovations. That's why there are dumpsters out front. But even those plans were in limbo for a while. The Woodson had been included in proposals to redevelop the historic gas plant district, which also includes Tropicana Field. Those plans died when the stadium deal for the Tampa Bay Rays died. The Woodson, though, did recently receive the African American Cultural and Historical Grant, and that's paying for some of these renovations. Crews are putting in new flooring, new lighting, they're working on the HVAC and the restrooms. The hope is that they can reopen sometime after late April. The leaders also say they're interested in expanding to a larger space.
I never had a new book when I was going to school. All the books we ever had came from the white school.
They were separate but not equal. Coming up, see how an all-Black school in Florida still tried to thrive in the face of segregation.
Justice for all, the legacy of Black history. We'll be right back.
You're watching Justice for All, the legacy of Black history. One stain on our country's history is segregation, when races were separated, including in our schools.
In Tampa Bay and in Orlando, you will find schools that started as Black only. Blake and Middleton High Schools in Tampa, Gibbs High School in St. Pete.
And as Curtis McLeod and photojournalist Ben Booker report, that also includes Jones High School in Orlando, at one point the only public school for Black students in that city.
Before the sun rises over Paramore, even before the first bell rings, legacy is already here. For generations, Jones High School has stood as more than just a campus. It was once the only public Black high school for Black students in Orlando, built during segregation, sustained by community, and powered by educators who refused to let their children fall behind.
My name is Clara Walters, and I am a retired principal and district level administrator.
I am Pinky Wright Sanders, and I have been a teacher for 31 years.
My name is Vicki Elaine Felder, and I am the board member for District 5, where the talent resides. I sit on Orange County School Board, and I am a 1974 Jones High graduate.
I never had a new book when I was going to school. All the books we ever had came from the white school. Always had other children's names in it, things written in it, but that didn't deter our learning. Our teachers made the difference. Back then, teachers were nurturers. They made sure we felt like somebody, and they didn't let us slack off.
It's so much to tell.
When resources were scarce, expectations were low. Still, educators built excellence in their own way.
That all of my teachers were just like my mothers and my fathers. They treated me so differently. I thought they thought I was one of theirs.
I was one of the initial 2 teachers sent to integrate the faculty of Oak Ridge High School. I was a little afraid, but I fell in and did what I knew I had to do. And it was there where I was discovered as a leader. And that was the best decision that was ever made for me, to principal this wonderful school.
If Joneside had a spring concert, had a Christmas concert, whatever they had, that was where you went. So that's why the love is so strong. That's why the legacy is so strong, because this is all we had outside of church. And my mother was the first Black female guidance counselor here, because you know, we've come a long way. They didn't think Black kids needed to have guidance counselors on a daily basis. So somebody would come like once a week or something like that. When integration stepped in, the fishbowl nightmare, they put Black teachers and white teachers in a fishbowl. We call it the fishbowl madness, and they would pull your name out of a fishbowl. So my mother was sent to Colonial. She didn't tell my dad and I until we were going to a retirement party, and she shared with us that a member of the Klan, they introduced themselves as a member of the Klan and said that she needed to get her Black ASS out of here because they don't need the N-word people at Colonial doing anything.
As I'm reflecting and thinking about everything that's going on and how much the school means to the community, I am walking on the shoulders of giants. My name is Orlando Norwood, and I'm the proud principal of the great Jones High School. You don't know where you're going if you don't know where you've been. Jones High is the standard. You don't have to compete when you're the originator.
Teachers also have had to become more advocates for education, more advocates for students.
If you don't love them, don't teach. Because if you don't love children, they'll find it out.
My name is Elnida Joseph. I'm a current 12th grade senior here, and I am the senior class president. It's amazing to go to a school that I am accepted at, because I see other people the same skin color as me excelling. It makes you feel like you can do anything that you want to do. They have instilled great values in me that I will continue to take even when I'm out of college, when I'm working in my future field.
So they need to know that people are pulling for them, are encouraging them, and wanting them to succeed. When you leave this school, you too can leave a legacy.
Black history is a part of American history. We are a part of the fabric of America.
In Orlando, I'm Curtis McLeod, Spectrum News.
Now, educators that we spoke with, they say that honoring the past is really only part of the mission. They say that the real work is finding opportunities for these students.
It was the only place where African Americans, thrived.
Still to come, we take you to a part of St. Pete known as the Deuces. See why for decades it was the beating heart of the Black community.
Stay with us. Justice for All, the legacy of Black history. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Justice for All, the legacy of Black history.
One thing many people in the Black community tell me is they are proud of how they dealt with and overcame racism, segregation, discrimination, and Jim Crow laws. And there is a perfect example of that right here in this part of St. Pete. For almost half of the last 100 years, there were two St. Petes, a white one and a black one. And you are flying through the black one, a place often called the Deuces, because so much of it was centered on 22nd Street. 2 Deuces.
It was more than just a street. It was an ecosystem. It was our ecosystem. It was the only place where African Americans, thrived.
Because as Latora Bowles, executive director of Deuces Live, can tell you, they were not allowed to thrive elsewhere. Jim Crow laws said, except for work, most of St. Pete was off limits to the Black community. So here, around 22nd Street South and 9th Avenue South, they built their own community.
Back in the 60s, the segregated days, this was the only place where African Americans can live, where they can work, where they can play and just be themselves.
And it had almost everything. Housing, including the Jordan Park Housing Complex, the state's largest public housing endeavor. Churches. In 1939, 19 of the city's 123 churches were in this neighborhood. Businesses. At its peak in the early 60s, more than 100 of them. In schools. Gibbs High opened in 1927, Jordan Elementary in 25. And that name Jordan, it keeps coming up.
This is my statue of my grandfather, Elder Jordan Sr.
In fact, Basha Jordan Jr.'s grandfather, Elder Jordan Sr., was the first non-politician to be honored with a statue in St. Pete. And the title of Basha Jordan's book will tell you why.
Did you see this book, The Legacy of Elder Jordan Sr., From Slavery to Philanthropy?
Jordan bought his freedom from slavery, built a business empire here, and then started giving back in the Deuces. The Jordan Park Housing Complex I mentioned, Elder Jordan donated the land.
He knew that African Americans needed decent and affordable housing.
And he built this place, the historic Manhattan Casino, for music and entertainment.
A venue for fun that survived more than 4 decades.
This was a place where African Americans could come and feel at peace, feel human.
In the Deuces from above, you can also spot the Royal Theater, one of the few theaters African Americans were allowed. And you can spot what used to be Mercy Hospital, one of the few places African Americans could get medical treatment in St. Pete.
Supported by doctors, lawyers, small business owners, and that is what we want to preserve and continue to grow and have on the Deuces corridor.
A community she is proud of, born out of a policy, segregation and Jim Crow, no one should be proud of. And that group Deuces Live is committed to preserving, promoting, and revitalizing this corridor.
Governor Ron DeSantis says DEI in Florida is dead, and President Donald Trump has called it radical.
Up next, we ask people who teach and study race why DEI became a dirty word to some.
You're watching Justice for All, the legacy of Black history. We're back in a moment.
We are back on Justice for All, the legacy of Black history. You know, by themselves, the words diversity, equity, and inclusion may not be controversial. But when they are combined to form the phrase also known as DEI, they have been plenty controversial.
DEI is a highly ideological agenda. In practice, it stands for discrimination, exclusion, and indoctrination. And that has no place in our public institutions and universities.
We've ended the tyranny of so-called diversity, equity, and inclusion policies all across the entire federal government and indeed the private sector and our military.
Florida has banned or restricted DEI in multiple ways. Critics of DEI say it's unnecessary, even describing it as reverse discrimination. We want to dig deeper into that argument and into DEI's place in our community. And Tammy is going to lead that discussion.
So we have 3 panelists here with us today to have this important discussion. Shanae Smith, she is a professor at the College of Business and Entrepreneurship at Bethune-Cookman University and also a descendant of Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune. We also have Dr. Walker with us, an associate professor for the Department of Educational Leadership and Higher Education at the University of Central Florida. Dr. Michael Butler, he is the Keenan Distinguished Professor at Flagler College and just back from a teaching stint at Yale University. We are so happy to have each of you. Thank you very much. Pleasure. All right, so let's talk about it. Let's jump right in. What do you all think when we talk about where we are right now when it comes to diversity, equity, and inclusion? And I'll start with you, Shanae.
Sure. Where we are currently with diversity, equity, and inclusion is kind of a seesaw, I can say, for my view. And I say that because we all know that there has been some shifts, some changes possibly not in the most positive eye when it comes to diversity, but now we have also come to that point to where there is still a way to pivot. Me being an educator, we're currently trying to develop future leaders. And coming from a HBCU specifically, I also too know I set the goal to develop those same CEOs and executive level managers, even coming from the great Bethune-Cookman University. So even though we're facing those challenges, I feel like us as educators are currently finding ways to connect those dots to where we will still be able to pivot through such challenging changes by just bringing that awareness, digging deeper into it, embracing history a little bit more. I know in business, I try to connect my students to more historical connections in business for them to understand why the common denominator of knowing that what we do as a collective will impact us as a whole.
Yeah, this is a really important question. And I'm thinking about a quote when it says, rising tides raise all boats, which is really an economic message and is central to America and what it means. I think when we talk about diversity, equity, inclusion, and race in the United States, historically, we're talking about we're here because of Jim Crow policies, right? And so the reason why we even had these policies, I know we've had some changes here at the state and federal level, is because of the Jim Crow period, you know, right after Reconstruction up until the Civil Rights Act of 1965. So I think there's a lot of context missing when we talk about whether you support or don't support the policies, is that it is rooted in a very important history as it relates to this country. And that we had context matters, and we need to have more conversations about how do we get here. And so, well, eventually some of these programs beyond support, you know, helping African Americans, to help other groups, women, etc. It's really important to have a dialogue about what is the history of this country, why it matters, and once again, this idea of raising all boats, you know, the tide raising all boats, essentially is what is in the best interest of the society. And this is a point where we're still debating what that is collectively, not only as a state, as a country. So it's going to be interesting to see where the journey takes us as a country, but it's really important to have these conversations and make sure they're rooted in history.
Dr. Butler, there is a push now to not talk about certain historical events. So how do you balance that when there's even pushback of what we can agree on when it comes to history now?
Yeah, I think that these topics are related, that the war on history and the fact that we are at a point where diversity, equity, and inclusion are terms that have been weaponized and manipulated to divide us by bad faith actors who really don't understand what those words mean or can place them in a proper historical context is really important. I think that as, you know, we sort of look at education right now and we look at the mosaic of America, not just through one perspective, that we do see throughout time that we're in a position that's pretty familiar. And that means that with every step toward a more perfect, inclusive union, there's going to be inevitable backlash. There was backlash during Reconstruction. There was backlash during Jim Crow. There's backlash during the Civil Rights Movement. And we're living through a period of backlash right now. So contextually, looking at the broad spectrum of American history, we're at a place that is not entirely unfamiliar. Where we are in terms of concepts of diversity, equity, inclusion being used by, as I said, bad faith actors is to divide, to make us fearful of each other and to make us angry, because that has political benefits, which we've seen. When in reality, diversity, equity, and inclusion is a reflection of what we're all promised as citizens in the Constitution, and it's even in our Pledge of Allegiance with liberty and justice for all. If you break it down, that's diversity, that's equity, and that's inclusion. Those aren't bad things. Those concepts actually make us stronger in the principles that we say we believe in, not weaker. It's to our benefit, not to our detriment.
And a lot of people don't know this, but there's actually levels to diversity as well. It's not just a surface level that we look at, which is based around color and race, but there's also levels of diversity based on the type of skills you have, the type of learning style you have. And that's what I actually teach my students, is to embrace differences and see how you can bring them together as a team, not identify them and find reasoning on what's the negative in the difference. So yes, that challenge currently in the workplace environment is, yes, more of that diversity is more of the lower level, and it's time to kind of bring it into more of the upper levels for certain businesses and industry to thrive. And like I said in our previous conversation, in most recent times, restaurant chains and food distribution chains have also recently appointed, like Red Lobster has appointed, or Darden Restaurant, I'm sorry, appointed a young Black man to be the successor and CEO to take over and transform the decline that they were facing. And so far, they're going into a positive direction. Also, as well as Sam's Club, that's connected to Walmart, they have also appointed a female Black CEO that is going to be the successor for this time. So as we start to kind of peel back those layers, we're eventually getting some of those qualified individuals from these diverse backgrounds to really show why do we have to make the culture actually run our businesses that we are, overseeing nowadays.
Yeah, a lot of programs, when we talk about DEI, it's really kind of a catch-all phrasing. And like I said earlier, context matters. A lot of people don't understand what groups might be impacted. And for some post-secondary institutions, it could include veterans among some of those same bucket of programs. And one of the things I think in this point is that we have to be very careful in terms of, we talk about the importance of supporting veterans. Many of them come from, when they leave the Army, Navy, et cetera, sometimes encounter challenges, right? So what do we do to make sure if they matriculate a post-secondary institution, that some of the programs that benefit a lot of different groups aren't cut or defunded as a result of a misunderstanding what in particular individuals benefits of specific programs. And it's very important that we support our veterans.
Shanae, Dr. Walker, Dr. Butler, thank you all so much for this very important conversation. Pleasure.
I lived it.
And had bottles thrown at her, cigarettes put out on her skin. Coming up, meet the Sarasota woman trying to teach Black history decades after living it herself during segregation.
When it comes to preserving Black history, it can be costly, but for one Florida museum, the price tag pales in comparison to the rich history they are determined to tell with their museum and planned cultural center.
They are calling the project an investment in the community and a return for those who sacrificed so much to get to this point. Our Sandra Weathers has that story.
Wade in the water, children, wade.
At the feet of an elder.
White children went to one school, Black children went to another. I know it's hard to believe, isn't it?
Children learning lessons from the very people who were part of Sarasota's Black history.
I have said to myself, wherever I can go and whatever I can do to tell the story, I'm going to tell it. I lived it.
When Odessa Butler looks at these old photos of the wade-ins from the 1950s showing Black residents from the Newtown community demanding access to beaches, she sees a snapshot that was once her reality.
There were bottles thrown, cigarette butts thumped at you after you got out on the beach. But what we did was we would all come together in a circle, and then somebody would give a prayer. They were pushing us back instead of us moving forward.
Butler tells that story to visitors here at the historic Leonard Reed House and on its trolley tours.
The mayor put Leonard Reed over his whole house, and he ran the house, and they built this house, which will be 100 years old this year.
Vicki Oldham is the president of the Sarasota African American Cultural Coalition.
Because it is an historic house, we have to care for this house in a certain kind of way.
Her nonprofit was gifted the Reed House in a deal with the city of Sarasota in the summer of 2020 during the height of the Black Lives Matter demonstrations.
The city asked me, they said, have you found any space yet? Well, I had not. They said, well, what about this house for your first space? I didn't have anything. I said, oh yes, we'll take it. The caveat was, we've got to move it.
Before its current location, the Leonard Reed House used to be located here about 1.5 miles away. But it started out here, right where this hotel now sits. Now, many blame the move on things like gentrification and development, but they say murals like this one prove that the Black history here will not be erased.
Oldham says Black history and preservation have proven to have real value for communities that make the investment.
Where these African American arts, cultural, and history centers are, there is an economic boost that happens in that Black community.
According to the American Alliance of Museums, cultural and heritage tourism travelers spend 60% more and stay longer than other leisure travelers. Information Oldham considered when they planned their expansion.
We connected with a Memphis architect, an African American architect, the same one who designed the National Civil Rights Museum at the Lorraine Hotel, where Dr. King was murdered.
The Reed House is phase 1. They plan to raise another $20 million for phase 2 of the Culture and History Center in the neighboring empty lot. It's a hefty price tag, but worth it for the price people like Butler had to pay along the way.
I want to tell the story. I looked at those kids this morning and I said to myself, if they only knew what we had to go through to get them to this point.
Another reminder of why history preservation here is so important. In Sarasota, Sandra Weathers, Spectrum News.
There are concerns that history is being erased literally. Last year, the Florida Department of Transportation painted over hundreds of murals on roads and crosswalks under a new state law.
Now, the governor said it was about making our roads safer and complying with federal law. In St. Pete, crews removed several prominent street murals, including the Black History Matters mural right in front of the Woodson Museum. That artwork replaced the previous one, painted in 2020, that read Black Lives Matter. The decision to erase the latest version faced pushback. It even resulted in 2 local faith leaders getting arrested for protesting it. Both men sat down on the mural, trying to block crews from painting over it. They faced charges of resisting an officer without violence, but those charges were later dropped.
Still to come, the forgotten heroes and forgotten stories of Black history.
Justice for All, the legacy of Black history. We'll be right back. Today we are marking 100 years of Black History Month, but the United States is also celebrating a major milestone this year as well, the 250th birthday of our country.
Black history is American history. Over those 250 years, we have seen the abolishment of slavery, the civil rights movement, the first Black president, and the first Black woman to be vice president. But those are the widely known moments. There is a lot more that's out there.
Photojournalist Eugene Buenaventura caught up with the What It Was walking tour. It is a group that leads people through parts of downtown Tampa, telling the story of historic Black neighborhoods that they believe have been left out of the history books.
When it comes to Black history, one of the things that just I noticed as a parent, as a mom, is that there was just a gap.
When I was growing up, which was like in the 80s and the 90s, you had Black history, but it was told from certain vantage points and even from certain books. You only had like 3 or 4, maybe 5 books.
In school, it's like a few people every year that it's about. It's always Harriet Tubman, Malcolm X,
Martin Luther King.
Like larger than life Black history figures that we all, know about.
It's like a very good thing that it's talked about in school, but I just wish they would do more.
There's also other people that made similar strides. There were allies back then that deserved some recognition as well, because they didn't just do those things on their own.
Right.
It was a sense of community and belonging, even amongst people that didn't look like them.
Yes.
It's nice to learn about them, and because it's like my heritage too. And so it'd be nice to see them throughout the year too, and not just during the months that is Black history.
Currently, I think that there are a lot of historical Black communities that just don't exist anymore.
It seems like a lot of Black history is being forgotten. If it wasn't social media, a lot of stuff out there would be forgotten.
And when you don't have that actual community to go to, point to, and explore anymore, history is lost.
They only got like the green things where it has like the words and sounds. I wish it was like more to show people like what it was and what was there, like a statue.
You can't see it, feel it, touch it, visit it anymore. Looking to the future, it sounds just like so cliche, but the blueprint for the future is in the past.
I do think that social media, when used in the right way with the right people, is providing a way to share more of this information.
The walk that I took this weekend, I learned a whole lot that I didn't know. So I would hope for that more of these type of things will be happening, that more people will come out and learn about their community and learn about the community and the Black community.
All of us need to make sure that we are intentionally going to see this, to find this information, to learn it, and to share it.
And prioritize it, to teach it to our youth.
Yeah. There's so many of us that are hungry for that education. We're hungry at how we got from there to here.
Black history is always going to be important to Black people, but I want it to be acknowledged as American history, not just Black history.
Because true Black history is American history.
Right.
You can get there.
Right.
Just got to be curious enough to go find out.
That is all the time we have. We want to thank you for watching Justice for All, the legacy of Black history. I'm Tammy Fields.
And I'm Jeff Butera. I thought it was appropriate to leave you with the words of the essayist George Santa Anna, who wrote, "Those who cannot learn from history are doomed to repeat it." Thanks for watching.
Stay safe, everyone, and stay informed.